On this Sunday night, Ukraine under attack. Russia unleashes its largest aerial assault of the war, striking Ukraine's government, what it means for a ceasefire and sanctions. Blocking the booze. Donald Trump attends the U.S. Open as broadcasters are told not to show the crowd's reaction. Speed camera decapitated. The brewing battle over Toronto's traffic enforcement. Plus, God's influencer. The Catholic Church names its first millennial saint.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Russia unleashed its largest ever aerial attack on Ukraine overnight, pounding the country with hundreds of drones and more than a dozen missiles, marking a major escalation in the war and coming just days after U.S. President Trump announced plans for more peace negotiations. Russia claimed it only attacked military infrastructure, but for the first time, Russian bombs struck the main government building in Kyiv, along with numerous residential buildings. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed 4 people were killed, including an infant, and there was extensive damage across the country. Hours later, President Trump responded.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
Trump's comments mark the strongest indication yet that he plans to ramp up sanctions against Moscow, a move he has so far resisted as he pushes for peace talks. Tonight, Nathaniel Dove reports on Russia's assault and the fast-fading hopes for a ceasefire.
More than 800 Russian drones, more than a dozen missiles lighting up the night and raining down on Ukraine. Afterwards, smoke and debris. This man says, "I was scared. We fled into the hallway for safety." The attacks hitting Ukraine's cabinet of ministers, its main government building. Ukraine's prime minister says it shows Russia is not seeking peace. An expert says it's like bombing Canada's parliament.
A country that seriously wants to negotiate would not run the risk of killing its counterparties. Those with whom it would negotiate. That's something you do to a country that you want to obliterate.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing?
President Donald Trump on Sunday saying he'll increase the pressure. Prime Minister Mark Carney posting Canada is steadfast in its commitment to supporting Ukraine and in its willingness to deploy direct and scalable military assistance to uphold a ceasefire.
Sanctions are not some kind of wonder weapon.
Duke University's Simon Miles says sanctions take time, and that's what Russia's leader wants.
Well, every day that particularly the Trump administration draws out this pre-negotiation negotiation, they're talking about talking, is a day that Vladimir Putin is winning.
But Russian troops are massing in eastern Ukraine, possibly for what could be their last push into the country before the weather turns cold, to bolster Putin's negotiating position, if he ever negotiates. Every new attack is more outrageous, proof that Russia doesn't plan to stop, this woman says. What will make a difference, Miles tells Global News, what Ukraine really needs is military support. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
A Canadian Armed Forces member deployed in Latvia has been found dead. Warrant Officer George Hole's body was discovered on Friday, 3 days after he was reported missing. He served in the armed forces for almost 20 years and was a vehicle technician for a helicopter squadron from Edmonton. Hole was deployed on Operation Reassurance, part of NATO's multinational response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Canadian Armed Forces says it is supporting the official Latvian investigation into his death and that there is no indication of any threat to other Canadian soldiers. South Korea has reached a deal with the U.S. to bring home hundreds of South Korean workers detained in that major immigration raid at a Hyundai manufacturing plant in Georgia. The The South Korean government says it plans to send a charter plane to bring 300 workers home. That country's foreign minister is also set to depart to the U.S. tomorrow to oversee their release. U.S. immigration authorities arrested 475 workers on Thursday, mostly South Korean nationals, part of U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping immigration crackdown. The Trump administration claims they were in the U.S. illegally and were violating U.S. labor laws. President Trump was in New York today for the U.S. Open men's singles final, and he didn't get the warmest reception. There was a strong mix of booing and cheers to the announcement of Trump's presence, but it wasn't shown on TV. The U.S. Tennis Association told broadcasters to censor any crowd reaction to Trump being shown on the big screen. The start of the match was also delayed by half an hour because of the huge lineups from the extra security needed for Trump's presence. On his way to that U.S. Open, President Trump was asked whether his administration is planning to launch any strikes against drug cartels in Venezuela. And Trump responded, quote, "You're going to find out." In recent weeks, the U.S. has moved substantial military firepower to the Caribbean. Mike Armstrong reports on the growing tensions between Washington and Caracas.
In a move clearly meant to send a message, Venezuelan fighter jets Thursday flew over a U.S. Navy warship. The first U.S. reaction came from the Defense Department on social media, a post calling it a highly provocative move. The second reaction was a day later, with reports the Pentagon is sending 10 F-35 fighter jets to Puerto Rico. From there, they'd be less than an hour flight from Venezuela.
Venezuela's been a very bad actor.
Now, the U.S. president has already sent 8 U.S. Navy ships to Latin America in what the administration is calling a war on narco-terrorist organizations. Earlier this week, it released video of a strike on what it says was a cartel-operated ship with drugs and 11 people on board. The Secretary of State traveling in Latin America this week says the ship was being used by the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. The days of pulling drug traffickers over and arresting people, he says, are over. It doesn't hurt the organizations.
What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them.
Now, Tren de Aragua is one of several gangs designated by the Trump administration as a foreign terrorist organization. It added 2 Ecuadorian gangs to the list Friday. The White House argues under U.S. law, with the terrorist designation, the groups can be targeted with military force. The Venezuelan president is arguing the military buildup isn't about crime, but regime change. Nicolas Maduro calls it an unjustifiable, immoral, and criminal threat. He's also called on Venezuelans to join the militia to defend the country. Now, there are signs the Trump administration is tightening the screws on Maduro. It's reiterated it doesn't recognize him as a legitimate head of state, a label that gives him protections under international law.
Maduro will not escape justice.
And last month, it doubled the reward for his capture to $50 million. U.S. officials insist publicly the operation is about drugs, but they do admit Maduro should be nervous. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
One of Canada's most wanted fugitives has been arrested in the Middle East. Convicted killer Robby Alkhalil escaped from a jail near Vancouver back in July 2022. Rumina Daya has the details.
The hunt for convicted killer Robby Alkhalil is over. Several sources tell Global News Khalil has been arrested in Qatar. A news conference is expected Monday. We have learned charges may be laid against several individuals here locally who are accused of helping the BC gangster escape. Alkhalil was the subject of a red notice by Interpol. The killer broke out of the North Fraser pretrial center in July 2022 while on trial for first-degree murder. That killing happened in January 2012 at the busy Wall Centre Hotel in downtown Vancouver and targeted his rival Sandeep Dure. Alkhalil was found guilty by a judge a month after his escape, which according to police was assisted by 2 men posing as contractors at the jail. Metro Vancouver Crime Stoppers later posted a $100,000 reward for information leading to Alkhalil's capture, but admitted it was unclear he was still in Canada, saying he was known to use fake passports and identification. A smaller $50,000 bounty on him was due to expire early next month.
We have reached out to the Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit for comment. We're still waiting to hear from them. Canada does not have an official extradition treaty with Qatar, but it can make the request. Rumina Daya, Global News.
And turning to breaking news now, a WestJet flight from Toronto to the Caribbean had a rough landing today. Video captured the moment the flight hit the tarmac in St. Martin at around 1 p.m. local time. Fire suppression foam was then deployed as a precaution. The 164 passengers and crew had to use slides to evacuate the Boeing 737-800. WestJet said no one was injured, though 3 passengers were taken for medical evaluation. The cause of that incident is now under investigation. The city of Toronto is dealing with a new kind of road rage, pitting drivers against traffic cameras. Toronto doubled the number of traffic cameras this year, up to 150, and one of the busiest cameras has produced nearly 70,000 tickets and millions in fines. But it's also been a target for vandals. The camera was cut down this weekend for the 7th time in less than a year. As Musa Imran reports, it's part of a surge in vandalism targeting cameras across the city.
Lo and behold, we found a very familiar sight, which is a cameraless pole.
It's something residents in the community have become all too familiar with. The speed camera on Parkside Drive has been cut down for the 7th time in the last 10 months. It's become such a regular occurrence that a security camera was put up nearby to help deter vandals.
But since it's been installed, the camera's been cut down 2 times, so clearly that's not working either.
The camera was installed in 2021 after a speeding driver killed an elderly couple in a 5-vehicle crash. Since then, it's issued more than 66,000 tickets, amounting to more than $7 million in fines. Faraz Golizada is the co-chair of a community safety organization known as Safe Parkside. He says the camera is a crucial deterrent to speeding in the neighborhood, but he wants to see the city do more.
Ultimately, our concern isn't with the vandals. You know, they don't have the power to bring about the changes that we're looking for. Only Councillor Gord Perks, only Mayor Olivia Chow, only City Council has the power to address this issue and to save lives, and unfortunately they're just not following through on that commitment.
Residents of the neighborhood share those concerns.
There's a lot of family homes out here, and the park does bring a lot of young kids, and it's a very dangerous street to cross. I have a dog and I walk across the street every day. It is a busy street, so speeding is an issue for sure.
We caught up with Mayor Olivia Chow to see if anything can be done to address the constant vandalism.
Well, it's not the city of Toronto that guard the camera. It's a policing matter right now because it's a criminal offense. But certainly, we're replacing those cameras. We are heavily fining people that are caught speeding on Parkside. And the thing is, if you don't speed, you won't get caught. You won't have to pay. So please, stop speeding.
Toronto police say their investigation into the vandalism remains ongoing. It is not yet clear if the city's surveillance camera captured the latest overnight attack. Musa Imran, Global News.
Not guilty and back on the ice. Coming up, one of the former Hockey Canada players acquitted of sexual assault signs a new contract. The details next. More than 6 weeks after being acquitted in a high-profile sexual assault trial, Alex Formanton is returning to professional hockey. The 25-year-old signed a new contract to play in Switzerland for the upcoming season. He's the first of the 5 accused to receive a pro contract since being found not guilty. Formanton and the 4 other former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team were acquitted of sexually assaulting a woman in London, Ontario back in 2018. They remain ineligible to play in the NHL, however. That league says it is still reviewing the judge's findings. Thousands of students are hoping Dalhousie University and its teachers can find some common ground. Talks are scheduled for Monday morning, 20 days after the school locked out its staff. As Kendra Gannon reports, with most classes disrupted, students are now falling behind and could even face delays entering the workforce.
Nova Scotia's healthcare system is already facing staffing shortages, and now the Dalhousie faculty lockout could make things worse. Dalhousie School of Nursing faculty say the dispute is creating uncertainty for when healthcare workers will graduate and enter the workforce.
We're expecting 200 students to graduate in 2026, fill their role in healthcare, but they are at risk of being delayed.
Nursing professor Audrey Steinbeck says this delay will have huge repercussions on an already strained healthcare crisis.
We have a massive shortage of nurses, but also primary care providers. This will have a huge impact because they're counting on these nurse practitioners and RN prescribing to go out and fill the gaps in the healthcare service.
Steinbeck notes that the government relies heavily on Dalhousie's nursing graduates. While Ezedine added that being more than 2 weeks behind, she is also worried about students handling the potential condensed course load on an already rigorous program.
Even if the semester is salvaged in a week time, we are still expecting that a number of students are not going to be able to make the semester.
Final year nursing student Tatiana Renier says 2 for 3 classes for the semester have been canceled, and many of her classmates have had all 3 canceled already. She says the feelings of uncertainty is growing with every day they aren't back in the classrooms.
I do feel like, for lack of better terms, a cash cow right now, right? I give the money, I expect a service, and I'm not getting that service in return. To have a condensed program further condensed and still having to pay that same tuition almost feels like a slap in the face.
It's not just nursing students feeling the effects. All Dalhousie healthcare students are feeling the blow. With crucial fundamental lectures and labs being canceled, students say they are needing to teach themselves for the time being to ensure they're prepared when classes start again. Monday morning, the two sides will be back at the table with a provincial conciliator in hopes of reaching an agreement and ending the lockout. Kendra Gannon, Global News, Halifax.
Video games and God. Still ahead, Pope Leo names the Catholic Church's first millennial saint. Catholics around the world are celebrating the canonization of 2 new saints today, one of whom is officially the first millennial saint, 15-year-old Carlo Acutis. As Candace Cole reports, he's become known as God's influencer.
È una festa bellissima.
Sunday, tens of thousands flocked to St. Peter's Square in Rome as Pope Leo XIV officially declared 15-year-old Carlo Acutis, nicknamed God's influencer, a saint during a canonization mass that also welcomed Pier Giorgio Frassati, who died of polio in the 1920s, to sainthood.
Entrambi, Pier Giorgio e Carlo,
During the mass given in Italian, Pope Leo said Acutis and Frassati cultivated their love of God through simple acts like daily mass, prayer, and Eucharistic adoration. He told the crowd, Carlo used to say, in front of the sun you get a tan, in front of the Eucharist you become a saint. Acutis, born in London in 1991, grew up in Milan and devoted himself to the Holy Eucharist. He was a young computer genius and developed a website chronicling Eucharistic miracles recognized by the Catholic Church. During his short life, Acutis was known to spend hours in prayer and limited himself to just 1 hour a week to play video games before the dawn of social media, an example that resonates deeply with young Catholics today. Visitor says it's important to have him as an influencer. Acutis died at just 15 years old after a brief bout with leukemia in 2006. His mother, Antonia Salzano, says growing up, her son was an ordinary child like anyone else.
I used to play, to have friends, to go to school, but it's extraordinary was the fact that he opened the door of his heart to Jesus and he put Jesus at the first place in his life.
To become a saint, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops says a candidate must be recognized for living a heroically virtuous life or offering one's life and performing 2 miracles through their intercession.
Often these miracles are healings, unexplained healings of people who are sick or ill or have had some injury, and there's no scientific explanation for why they were healed or what happened.
Acutis is entombed in the Italian town of Assisi, also known for St. Francis of Assisi. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
Hoop Dreams up next. The Canadian basketball star inspiring the next generation of ballers. Welcome back. Benedict Mathurin helped the Indiana Pacers reach the NBA Finals last season, but the basketball star hasn't forgotten his Canadian roots. This weekend, he was back in his hometown of Montreal, inspiring the next generation. Felicia Perillo explains.
It's no surprise to see NBA guard Benedict Mathurin on the court, but it's not every day he's back on his home court. Over the weekend, Mathurin and his sister Jennifer hosted their third annual free basketball camp in Montreal, welcoming more than 150 players for drills, mentorship, and more.
I mean, I love it. I love to help kids, and we've had a lot of success doing it. So pretty much just trying to do it every year, trying to grow more and more.
It was a milestone year for Mathurin. The Montreal native made it to the NBA Finals with the Indiana Pacers, where his team fell short to the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by Ontario's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and fellow hometown star Lou Dort. For Mathurin, though losing was tough, he says it's also proof of how far basketball has come in Montreal, and now he's bringing that momentum back home to the kids who could be next.
Me and Lou playing against each other in the finals, you know, who would have thought? So I feel like the kids pretty much had a good experience, and you know, it was a great opportunity for the city of Montreal.
The sport's popularity, especially among young girls, has surged recently, and kids here say that dream now feels closer than ever.
I think everyone think they have a chance by seeing them.
Benedict's sister, Jennifer, who's a former professional basketball player and runs the family's foundation, says the camp's impacts go far beyond the gym.
It is very important to have success stories straight from Montreal in order to come back and, you know, to give back to the kids, to give a positive message and also give them a signal of hope.
And for the kids, that signal of hope may just be the spark they need to help carry their own dreams forward. Felicia Perillo, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Fredericton, New Brunswick, White Rock, British Columbia, and St. Anisette, Quebec. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great night.